Okay, now, of course, after discussing this introduction about this chapter, of course, we'll move to discuss, John Maynard Keynes' ideas about the economy. So here we're going to start with the simple Keynesian model. The simple Keynesian model. Of course, we're going to discuss the simple Keynesian model. Of course, as you see, usually economists come up with certain models or theories in order to better understand the world. So we have already, discussed models in previous chapters, such as the supply and demand model, comparative advantage, and now we're going to study the simple Keynesian model. Of course, the simple Keynesian model, of course, it depends on certain, simplifying assumptions. Okay, so Keynes has, put some simplifying assumptions concerning this, model. The first one, of course, assumptions. Is that the price level is assumed fixed until the economy reaches its full employment output or its natural GDP. So here we can say that the price level is fixed, is assumed fixed, constant, until the economy reaches it is natural real GDP. Second, Keynes assumed that the economy is closed. The economy is closed, which means that the country has no any trading partners. In other words, export and imports are excluded from the total spending. Here, because the economy is closed, then this means total spending is going to be equal consumption plus investment plus government purchases. We don't have net exports because the economy is closed. Now, the third one is that economic or the monetary side is excluded. The monetary side this means that the central bank has no role to play in the economy when we say that. Okay, that in any economy usually we have two policies, the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. So in this here, this assumption exclude the central bank. Now, of course, these are the main assumptions that Keynes has put in his simple Keynesian model. Now, in actuality, Keynes his main concern at the beginning was total spending in the economy, but because consumption constitutes the lion's share of total spending, then he, focused on the consumption function. As you know, the consumption function consists of almost 70%, and in some countries more than 70% of GDP. Therefore, Keynes has, focused upon the consumption function. So he put certain, important points, about the consumption function. In order to derive the consumption function, he has, set certain important points. Okay, now we move to talk about the consumption function. Okay, as I said, he focused on the consumption function because consumption by itself constitutes the lion's share of total spending. That's why, he focused or he studied the consumption function. What are the main points he suggested about the consumption function? The first, point he suggested about the consumption function is that the consumption depends on disposable income. Consumption depends on disposable income. YD. Disposable income is the sum of consumption and saving. Where YD is equal C plus S, where C is equal consumption and S is equal saving. Because, a person, an income is either saved or consumed. An income is either saved or consumed. So consumption depends on disposable income. The second point he made about consumption is that consumption and disposable income moves in the same direction. Consumption, C and disposable income move in the same direction. That is, they are directly proportional to each other. If YD increases, consumption will increase. If YD decreases, consumption will decrease. So they have a positive relationship, okay? C, consumption, and YD, disposable income, move in the same direction, okay? And the third point he made about, the consumption is that when YD changes, consumption will change by less. When YD changes, then C will change by less. Why? Because, part of the disposable income goes to saving, okay? So you can't expect a person to consume all his disposable income. Therefore, when YD increases, then consumption will increase, but by a less, percentage, okay? So from these three important points about the consumption function, of course, we can, write the consumption function. So here we could say, therefore, the consumption function is stated as follows. Let's move over here. C is equal C0 plus MPCYD. Okay, so consumption basically, consists of, is equal C0 plus MPCYD. So let's, discuss these three important variables in this consumption function, where C0 is autonomous. Consumption. Autonomous means independent. That means autonomous means independent. What that means? It means that C0 does not depend on disposable income. Independent means independent of, therefore, autonomous consumption means that part of consumption that is not dependent on disposable income. So autonomous means independent, which implies that C0 does not depend on disposable income. Okay? Now, MPC is marginal propensity to consume. Which is equal, the ratio of the change in consumption, over the change in disposable income. So is marginal propensity to consume. So MPC is equal the change in consumption over change in disposable income. Okay? Now, MPC, of course, is between 0 and 1. Why? Because we said, based on the third factor over here, the third point, where when YD changes, then C will change by less. Okay, so that's why we can say that MPC is a positive number, value between 0 and 1. It could be 20%, 30%, 40%, 60%, 70%, and so on. Okay, and this is the value of MPC. Okay, now let us basically give an example to differentiate between, still we are talking about MPC YD. Okay, now therefore YD is disposable income, MPC is marginal propensity to consume, C0 is autonomous consumption, and we could say that C is equal, C0 plus MPCYD. So you have here autonomous consumption and here is induced consumption. let us differentiate between these two terms. Let's give an example to just explain what actually induced consumption means and what autonomous consumption means. Induced consumption, let's say, for instance, your taxes or the taxes that you pay, have realized a decrease in the taxes. The tax rate has gone down. So as a result of a decrease in taxes, then your disposable income will increase. Remember that disposable income, remember that YD is equal Y minus T, where T is taxes. Okay? Say, for instance, taxes gone down, which implies that your disposable income will increase. As a result of the increase in disposable income, your consumption will increase. Okay? Your consumption will increase. So what that means, the decrease in taxes, has induced you to consume more. Hence, the name, of course, induced consumption. Okay? Now, what about, autonomous consumption? Of course, as I said, that autonomous means independent, which autonomous consumption means independent consumption that does not depend on disposable income. For instance, sometimes you might, be in a situation where you consume more medication because you have become ill, even though your income did not change. So this is autonomous consumption. Your income did not change. However, you are consuming more medication because you are feeling sick. And that's why we call it autonomous consumption. Same thing, can be said about if, your car broke down and you take it to a mechanic to fix it. So you consume, maintenance for your car, even though your, of course, income did not change. And that's why we call it, of course, autonomous consumption. Let me erase over here and, continue to discuss these important points. As I said, that the sum of consumption and saving will equal, of course, disposable income. So YD is equal consumption plus saving. Okay? So saving is equal YD minus consumption. So, which is equal YD minus C0 plus MPC YD. So let me, of course, simplify this, which is equal YD minus C0 minus MPC YD. Okay? So this is his saving. So saving is going to be equal minus C0 plus YD, of course, minus MPCYD, which is equal C0, of course, plus YD 1 minus MPC. Okay? And so saving is equal, of course, here minus C0 plus YD 1 minus MPC. So it's going to become minus C0 plus MPS YD, where MPS is equal marginal propensity save. Okay, MBS, marginal propensity to save. So the formula of saving is going to equal what? This is the formula of saving. Okay, minus C0 plus MBS YD. MBS, of course, MBS between 0 and 1. Now remember that YD is equal C plus S. Take the change of them. Okay, change. Take change. Okay, now we got change YD is equal to change C plus change S. Okay, now divide both sides by YD. Divide both sides by the change in YD. So we get here change in YD, change in YD, change in YD, and that will equal here, cancel out 1. So 1 is equal delta C over delta YD. The change in consumption over the change in YD is equal to what? It's going to be equal to marginal propensity to consume. So here MPC plus the change in saving over the change in YD is the marginal propensity to save, MPS. So as you can see, the sum of MPC plus MPS is equal 1, which implies MPS is equal 1 minus MPC. And this is what we said over here, 1 minus MPC is going to equal MPS, and where we have this formula over here. Okay, now as you can see over here, let's erase over here. You see C is equal C0 plus MPCYD. That we have 3 variables in the consumption function. C will change if C0, if any one of those variables changes. That is, there is an increase in C if there is an increase in C0, or an increase in MPC, or an increase in YD. So when C0 increases, then C will increase. When MPC increases, then C will increase. When YD increases, then of course C will increase. Okay? Now, let's see, for instance, here, what we need to see here. We're going to look at, the total spending, where, Keynes was basically interested to know about total spending. Now, if C0 increases, then, consumption will increase. And when consumption increases, then total spending will increase. The question is that, will total spending increase by the same amount of the increase in autonomous consumption? According to Keynes, total spending will increase by more than the increase in autonomous spending, autonomous consumption. Okay? Let's, because according to Keynes, that the increase in C0 will act as a catalyst to other spending. Will act as a catalyst to other spending. So let's show exactly what, how to basically justify the concept or the fact that total spending will increase by more than the increase in autonomous spending. In other words, if autonomous spending increases by $100, does total spending will increase by $100? According to Keynes, no. Total spending will increase by more than $100. So let's, discuss that in some example to see exactly how, Keynes look at this fact in order to prove his case that total spending will increase by more than the increase in autonomous spending. Let me erase over here and discuss that. Consider that the economy consists of, say, 5 individuals. Say that the economy consists of 5 buyers or individuals, A, B, C, D, and E. Okay? Suppose A, spends C0. Suppose A, buys the amount of C0. Okay, he consumes, from, individual B, the amount of some goods by the amount of C0. In other words, A spends C0, the autonomous spending, C0, okay, by buying goods from, by buying goods from B. B is an individual, okay? Now, so C0, okay, that A spends when he bought goods from individual B, becomes an income to whom? To B. Okay? He pays, money by the amount of C0, autonomous, consumption. Okay? So B will receive that amount of money, C0. Now, according to Keynes, C0 becomes a new income to B. Now, according to Keynes, B will spend, some portion of C0. According to Keynes, that depends on the marginal propensity to consume. Say, for instance, say that MPC is equal, let's say it depends on the MPC. Let me not give numbers now, okay? Let it like this. So P will spend, some portion of C0. So you have A over here, you have B over here, you have C over here, you have D over here, you have E over here. A spends C0. C0 become an income. And when I here just, write the spending by each person. Okay? A spends C0 by purchasing goods from individual B. Now, C0 become an income, okay, to, in other words, B will witness an increase in his income by the amount of C0. Now, how B is going to do? He is going to spend, according to Keynes, a portion of C0. And that portion that he will spend to buy goods and services depends on the marginal propensity to consume. Say that the marginal propensity to consume is common to all of them, the same, MPC. So he will spend, a portion of that C0. So he will spend MPC C0. For instance, if the autonomous consumption that A spends is $100, and $100 becomes an income to B, B will spend a portion of that $100, and that portion depends on the MBC. Suppose the MBC is 0.8, then B will spend what? 80% of 100, that means he will spend $80. And $80 become an income to C. Okay? Now, B will spend MBC C0. Okay? Now, MBC C0 become an income to C. Now, how much C will spend? He will spend, of course, a portion of MBC C0. And that portion depends on the MBC. So this will spend MBC of this income. Okay? Of this income. Because this is the income that he receives from B. He will spend a portion of it, which is MBC times this. Okay? Now, this MBC square times C0 becomes an income in the hands of D. So D will spend what? Of course, a portion of that income. Okay? So D here will spend what? MBC of MBC square C0. MBC times MBC, MBC square. So this person will spend MBC of this amount. So this amount that D spends by purchasing goods from individual E will become an income. And E will spend what? He will spend MBC of that income. That means MBC. So as we see here, person E will spend, will spend, of course, a portion or a certain percentage of, the income he receives from D, which is MBC, MBC square C0. So E, this is an income to E. So E now is going to spend a portion of that income, of course, and that portion depends on the marginal propensity to consume, which is MBC. So it's going to be MBC times MBC cube C0, because C0 is the the increase in autonomous consumption by the original or by the first person A. Okay, now as you look at this series here, this is a series, and this is a geometric series or a geometric sequence. Why this one is a geometric series? Because a geometric series is a series where every term, has a constant ratio to its preceding term. Look over here. Now, if we divide, MBC C0 over C0, we're going to come up with MBC. Divide this one over here, we're going to come up with MBC. So we have a constant ratio. Divide this one, this one over here, we come up with MBC. This one over here, we're going to come up with MBC. So every term has a constant ratio to its preceding term. Okay? The ratio of this over this, you got MBC. The ratio of this term over this term is MBC. So this is a geometric series. And the geometric sum total of this series is going to be equal what? Here we're talking about the total expenditure. Okay? The geometric sum is going to equal geometric sum is equal, of course, C0 times 1 over 1 minus MPC, which is the common ratio. Okay? C0 times 1 over 1 minus MPC. 1 over 1 minus MPC is the multiplier. So now, as you can see, we can relate this one to a total expenditure. So the change in total expenditure is going to be equal, of course, the multiplier times, change in autonomous consumption. Consumption. Okay. So change in total expenditure equal multiplier. Okay. This is the multiplier times the change in autonomous consumption. So as you can see here, we derive this formula, and so this is the multiplier process. The multiplier process is where you have an increase in autonomous consumption, okay, C0. Then this will generate, of course, an income for a person. Will generate an income. Of course, an increase in autonomous consumption will lead to increase in consumption for one person, okay, and that of course will means it will generate an income for another person, and this will lead to consumption, of course, an increase in consumption for another person, and so on and so forth. And this is called the multiplier process, okay? So the multiplier process basically, an increase in consumption of one person causes an income to another person, and then the other person will also spend a portion of that income, and that portion of income will become lead to an income to a third person, and the third person will spend a portion of that income, and so on and so forth. And this is called the multiplier process. Okay, so as you can see here, that the formula of the consumption that consists of autonomous consumption plus induced consumption, of course, works for other variables such as investment and government expenditure. Investment, of course, can be stated as the sum of autonomous investment plus other factor, okay, like this. Okay, and this is basically the whole concept concerning the, of course, the consumption function that was derived by Keynes. And of course, now here we derive the change in total expenditure is going to equal the multiplier times the change in autonomous consumption, which is this, equation is based on the geometric series over here. We could have numbers, easily, C0 we could have, if we, give an example in terms of numbers, it is very easy to come up with this. For instance, A spends, for instance, $100. Okay, now this $100 become an income in B. B will spend, and say, suppose here, we could say here, suppose here, if I, erase over here and give a simple example to see what's going on here. Okay, let's say, for instance, A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, A spends, let's say, $100. Okay, $100 become, and suppose here C0 is equal $100, and then MBC is equal 0.8. We said that MBC is between 0 and 1. Now suppose A starts, the initial increase in autonomous consumption is 100, okay? 100 becomes an income to B. Now B spends 80% of 100, which is what? 0.80, okay, of 100, which is $80, okay? Now $80 become an income here. C will spend, of course, a portion of it, depending on the MPC, which is 0.8. So now this C will spend what? 0.8 times what? 80, which is equal, okay, let's see over here, which is equal 64, okay? Now, 64 becomes an income to D. Now D will spend 0.8 of 64, which is equal which is 25.6. Okay, so 0.8 times 64 is get 51.2. Now 51.2 becomes an income to E. E has to spend a portion of it based upon the MBC, which is 0.8. So here we can see 0.8 times 51.2, which is equal 51.2 times 0.8, which is equal 40.96. 40.96. So as you can see over here, this example in terms of numbers is, as you can see, here, these are the spending by all those individuals. Imagine if, this will continue for an infinite number of consumers. So when you add all these things, 100, 100 plus 80 plus 64 plus 51.2 plus 40.96 plus all these things, of course, you will come up with this formula, which is C0, 100, of course, times the multiplier, 1 over 1 minus MBC. So here we can find this, and this is equal 100 times 1 over 1 minus 0.8, which is equal 100 times, you get here 1 over 0.2, which is equal 100 times 5, which is equal 500. So, as you can see, eventually, of course, the geometric sum over here is going to be 500. So, the total expenditure, okay, if we start with $100, the change in autonomous consumption will give us $500. That is the change in total spending, of course, given that the MBC is 0.8 and C0 is 100, you come up with $500 by using this formula over here, okay, which is the geometric sum, or, this is the formula which is, derived from this geometric series formula.